Hi everyone, my name is Nathalie and I'm here to share with you about how I went from slim thick to fit thick over the past 5 years. If that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned because there is so much more to come. Back in 2019, I was diagnosed with PCOS, insulin resistance, and I was put on Ozempic. At the time, I had no clue what Ozempic was. Like, nobody was talking about GLP-1s. It was newer on the market. Of course, it had been being used by diabetics, but regular people like me were not yet using GLP-1s. My nurse practitioner told me that it would help with my hunger cues and would essentially help me lose that 10 pounds that were really stubborn that I couldn't get rid of due to my PCOS and insulin resistance. Why this is a little bit of a lie, I'll get into at another time. But I was down. So I went ahead and started the injections. And what do you know? She was not lying. Within 2 months, I went from 148 pounds down to about 135. Of course, this was years ago, so it may have taken a little bit longer for me to get to 135, but that was always my goal weight, and darn it, did it get me there. I was riding high. I was loving this leaner me, just enjoying myself, and I felt really good. I cannot lie. But there was a downside that nobody could have prepared me for. At that time, I was really into Olympic weightlifting. I was really enjoying the sport. I wasn't an athlete growing up, so I wasn't necessarily super strong, but I had gained quite a bit of skill, mobility, even muscle strength doing this sport for about 2 to 3 years. And while that was all well and good, I wanted to get that weight off. So having the weight off and also being in the gym and training, it was like, heck yes, I'm finally gonna reach my body composition goals that I have been dreaming about. Well, isn't it funny that as time went on, I was finding that I wasn't progressing in my lifts. I was stuck at about 110 pound snatch, a 130 pound clean and jerk, and I believe at that time I could squat about 210 at the most. I'm telling you, I could not PR anything. But you know what I was? I was skinny, honey, and I was not about to get off this drug. At that time, I also was completely in denial that the drug had anything to do with it. So I would kind of start little mini bulks and quit because the scale would start going up, but I would also start feeling really sick. I did not realize that that was a result of the GLP-1. And if I did, I just didn't want to believe it. So I kept on taking the medication and spinning my wheels in the gym. And eventually I quit Olympic weightlifting. It was just really taxing on my body. I was fatigued all the time. I wasn't progressing. And I was really starting to get the itch for bodybuilding. I've always loved a bodybuilding body yaddy. I used to buy Oxygen magazine when I was a little girl, and I would like sneak it home and I would read the articles. So I just honestly loved that look. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this sport away. I'm going to transition over to bodybuilding and I'm going to see what happens. Maybe this is the thing that I need. During that time, I started working with my amazing coach, and I did tell her that I was on Ozempic, and I, at that point, recognized that there was something about the medication that was holding me back. Interestingly, this is how bad my weakness would get. I would be in the shower, and as you can see, I have curly hair and it's really thick. So I would be in the shower washing my hair and, getting in there, and I would get dizzy. There was one time that my sister was at my place and she actually had to come help me because I almost passed out in the shower. This happened multiple times, not as bad as that incident because I started to recognize those symptoms and I would stop and like kind of recover. But who almost passes out taking a shower? That is crazy. So that's just to give you a sense of how weak I was feeling while taking this drug. The things we do to be skinny, right? So I transitioned over to bodybuilding and I was so excited. I was just so pumped. But what do you know? I was running into the same challenges, feeling weak in the gym, just really not progressing. It was during that time that I realized I'm in my mid 30s. I'm going to get a boob job. So I had a really small, like barely B cup chest. And I just decided that, why not? I haven't had kids yet if this is the time. So I went ahead and got it done. And I have no regrets about that. But of course, before surgery, you have to go off of any medications. Well, I stopped taking the GLP-1, and it also happened to be around the time that the insurance companies were getting stricter about who could actually get a prescription for a GLP-1. So I was no longer covered under my insurance and was going to have to pay out of pocket if I wanted to continue. I had about 2 months left of supply, and I thought, I'll figure it out when this is over. Because at that point, I had every intention of staying on the medication. Well, I go through the surgery, I'm in recovery, and once that was over, I decided I'm not doing this anymore. I want to get to a certain look, and I know this drug is holding me back. How did I know? I knew because I had been spending 3 years at that point in the gym with no changes to my body composition. Like, other than being a thinner version of who I was in 2019, I had no muscle. It was just, I felt like I had nothing to show for all the time that I was spending in the gym. So I got off of the Ozempic knowing that, hey, the scale's going to go up. At that time, I was about 138 because, of course, when after surgery, you get really swollen, and then I had dropped down. So when I started training again, post recovery, I was at about 138 pounds. And when I tell you, seeing that scale go up was terrifying. I was so uncomfortable. I didn't like it at all. But I knew it's what I needed to see the body of my dreams. I just knew it. So I kept on, I kept pushing through, and it has been now over 2 years since I quit the GLP-1. I'm now at 142 pounds, so really not that much heavier than I was back then, but definitely holding much more muscle tissue and in a great position to start a prep next year. My goal is to do wellness bodybuilding. If you're familiar with the wellness division, it's very lower body dominant. It's a very muscle mommy look, and that's what I'm striving for. But I'm sharing my story because I want for people to understand that if you are somebody who really, really cares about your aesthetics and you want to have a muscular, lean, maybe fit, thick look, not necessarily like super skinny. Like, I'm not obviously like a super tiny, lean girl. That's just not genetically how my body is. It takes work for me to get leaner. I hold a bit more body fat. That's okay. But I knew I wanted more muscle. I knew that the only way that I was going to see the body composition that I was really striving for was to get off the drug and to put some mass on. And putting mass on requires gaining weight, ladies. You have to. If you are already relatively slim and it's like, oh, I got to lose a couple more pounds, but you're also like, but I want to be a bit more muscular. You have to know that to get to that look is going to require putting on some body fat, putting on some pounds on the scale, cutting it down, and then revealing that beautiful muscle that you've been working hard for. And I am about to enter a stage where I'm going to start revealing the beautiful muscle that I've spent the past 2 years working hard for. So if my story resonates with you, please just, if you're thinking about a GLP-1 to lose those last few pounds, but you also really value the aesthetic and look of having some muscularity, really, really think about if a GLP-1 is the right solution for you. I can't say that I regret taking it because I just didn't know enough to make any other decision at the time, but I think I would have stopped a lot sooner if I had just listened to my body and also recognized that I wasn't progressing in the ways that I should have been, considering the time I spent in the gym and the years of training that I had been doing. So I'm really excited to share more with you, and you can find me at natbrat318 on Instagram, where there's more information about coaching with me. All right, everyone, have a great one, and I will talk to you again soon.